about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So we got a lot to get to today, but one thing I want to open the show with is something that is plaguing a lot of families and couples and marriages, and it's the concept or the complaint that the wife or the husband or your partner or your spouse doesn't do blank all day, poop all day. And what's been happening, and I don't know if it's because it's been since COVID or since people have become unemployed or who knows, but, you know, house just isn't really getting clean. Dinner's not getting cooked. Chores aren't getting done. Dog not getting walked. Things just aren't getting done. Now, I actually heard a neighbor kind of griping at their spouse the other day because the lights, they were late with the Christmas lights. Now, you're not technically late. It's not Thanksgiving, but I understand, you know, a lot of us do like to decorate early. But the procrastination, the non-motivation, it's something that is starting to affect a lot of relationships. And things were a little different in the past, which I thank God was not a wife during those periods, because I really prefer to work and be outside the house. God bless our homemakers. But if I had to be the one that reared the children and cooked and cleaned and maintained the house and dealt with the deliveries and all that, you know, and you know, if I had to do all that, I don't really know how, you know, how happy I would have been. I really, really love working and being out and doing what I do. But there were roles. There were chores. Things got done. Things got fixed. Things got, you know, and maybe it got divided between the man and the woman or their partner or whatever, and, you know, maybe not. But for the most part, things got done. And I keep hearing, you know, from patients, we don't have home-cooked meals. Nobody cooks in the family. I mean, I come home and I just grab whatever I can or grab something on the way. Or or I'm worried that my spouse is depressed because I come home and all they're doing is sitting on their computer, or all they're doing is watching Netflix, or they're playing, you know, video games. And so what our population has done, and nobody really wants to talk about this, but we talk about on this show, is, you know, we're you know, starting to embrace the mediocrity and the laziness and the unmotivating. And in fact, when there are things that need to be done, people get anxious about it. And the funny thing is, and I'm not just sitting here preaching on my high horse. I'm starting to get that way too. Like yesterday, I had to go for my mammogram. I was actually a little anxious, not so much because of the mammogram, because I went to Steinberg Diagnostics, doesn't hurt, easy. They make the procedure great. It's just, it was something else in my day I had to do. And I was even thinking about procrastinating it. Now, you don't procrastinate your breast cancer screening. You get the stuff done. You don't procrastinate cleaning the house. You don't procrastinate taking care of the dog. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Got to go grocery shopping. These are things you have to do. But we've taken away these are things we have to do, and I'm just going to do what I want to do. I don't feel like working out. What do you mean you don't feel like working out? Every day you should be exercising. I don't go to bed unless at least I know I've done my workout or I've done my steps. I know it doesn't look it, but I've worked out every day of my life. I work out. You have to. It's just, that's what you do. You brush your teeth, you know, clean laundry. Now, do I make my bed? No. I mean, you know, but I mean, if the dog poops in the house, you pick it up. You don't just let it sit. And we've really slowly started to be, well, it's okay. I'll wait till it dries and it's easier to pick up. Now, it's raining outside, so the dog doesn't need exercise. And you start to see that you once you let something go, it's easy to snowball and let everything go. And I'm hearing from couples that they're very frustrated because they might be at work and they come home and nothing's done. And it's not that the person who's not working should now be in charge of the whole house. Being a homemaker is a tough job. But I am hearing time and time again that it's, I didn't feel like going grocery shopping. Sorry. I didn't feel like, it just, I got to do this. I got to take the car in. I got to check the tires. And it's a big deal. Well, what else are you doing in your day? And that's going to cause more fights with people. So what do you do? What do you do if you have a spouse or somebody you care about, adult child, that doesn't seem to be doing jack diddly squat? Well, I like family meetings. I think family meetings between spouses and kids and all that are really, really good. And say, all right, guys, this is the situation we have. Okay, these are things, and I'm not going to, delegate them. But in life, these are things that need to get done. And these are things you have to do. Got to take care of your teeth. You have to, all right. I know it's not fun. I mean, there's work, play, all that. And I understand I'm getting lazy. I'm doing less. What's a good way to get this stuff done? Do we want to do grocery shopping Mondays and Fridays? When are we going to do yard work? When are we going to do housework? When are we going to do, what do you want me to do? Do you want to split it? Where every other week, one of us handles the meals for the week. But what do we do so it doesn't, I don't want to take advantage of you. You're not taking advantage of me, but we don't want to start resenting each other. So let's come up with a plan to get stuff done, because I'm less motivated. I think we're all less motivated, and that happens. Now, that's what COVID did. But I want to make sure we're getting done what we're getting done. Now, if it's not getting better, then you got to look at underlying depression. Somebody who's depressed, one of the first signs of depression is they let the house go. They let themselves go. They don't want to work out. They don't want to go and get, food to cook healthy meals. They don't want to clean. They don't want to, But another thing, too, also is work together. The idea of you do this, you do this. I notice that I really love, when my husband and I get together and get stuff done together. So I was starting to put off the Christmas lights. I was like, okay, well, I got to do this, and I got to get the ladder, and I have to do this, and I'm really tired. I'm not feeling up to it. And then I'm like, honey, do you mind? Can you just help me get the higher lights up? And both of us, we got it done super fast. And, when you work together, things go faster. So, maybe also kind of suggest a group effort. Let's cook the meal together. Let's make it a night. But, if you do have somebody that they're just sitting home not doing nothing, maybe, get them some help. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. On the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Okay, so all eyes are on the meeting today that's supposed to happen, I think, at noon East. This afternoon, I think, in Washington, D.C. with Mamdani and President Trump. I don't think the meeting is necessarily going to be live streamed, because I think there's going to be some back and forth. There's going to be some showboating, but there might be a press conference. And all eyes are kind of looking at Mamdani. And, Mamdani has really energized some of the Democrats. He's worried some of the Democrats, but he's energized some of them. As Gen Z is getting more and more, shall we say, enthusiastic about socialism. In fact, some polls are showing anywhere from 40 to 62% of Gen Zs look at socialism favorably, where workers have more control over private company. In theory, there's a shared relationship between the government and the working class. And so when you look at socialistic ideas, you're like, oh, okay, well, if capitalism is all about the rich and communism is all about fascists, then socialism looks nice. And so in theory, people are looking at that going, okay, well, wow, oh, that sounds great. So I'll do better. I'll definitely do better, because I won't do well in a communistic regime. I'm not doing well in capitalism. So socialism sounds great. And so you're looking at Gen Z who, and this isn't their fault, I mean, if they were told to get a college degree and go into debt, they get a college degree and then they can't get a job. They think that our society has basically, well, not to mention how many times have people been told they were butterflies and snowflakes and worthless, and so they're looking to a younger generation of politicians that speaks to them. And somebody saying New York is too damn expensive calls to them. I mean, Mamdani's not right. Wrong. I mean, New York is expensive. I think he's wrong about a lot of other things. And I think, the way he's approaching Israel and his attitudes towards what Hamas did to Israel, wrong. But he's attracting a lot of people with his economic discourse and what his campaign promises are. So he's going to beat Trump, and it'll be interesting to see those two because, he said, I have 4 words for you, turn up the volume. I really don't know what that meant. Did it mean turn up the volume of the TV? Because he said, I know Trump's watching me right now. Is it turn up the volume so he hears what Mamdani's saying? Is this a hearing issue? Or is it turn up the volume, meaning he wants to fight? I don't get that, and maybe he'll clarify it. Yeah, but so there's no doubt. He won. No, this is who New York City wanted. Was it all the voters? No, millions of voters in New York City didn't vote for him or didn't vote at all. But he is going to be the mayor of New York City. But one thing that maybe it's because I'm middle-aged, and maybe it's because I've studied history, but who does socialism or communism or some of these more socialized attitudes towards things, who do they really help? Do they help the poor? Do they help the middle class, or do they help the rich? And so what I'm seeing as a doctor is Obamacare was brutal. Not only was it for us small business doctors, but it was brutal for patients. And every day I see at least 10 patients saying they cannot afford their Obamacare plan. Yeah, and they're not fans of it. They're not fans. So who did Obamacare help? Now, I'm not saying Obamacare was socialized medicine. Obamacare, was okay. The government is going to get involved. They're going to pay down your rates, so it helps the poor people. In fact, the only people that really benefited from Obamacare was the rich and the insurance companies. If you were wealthy, what did you end up doing? Well, you ended up getting a concierge doctor or a doctor where you just paid cash and said, you know what? I have a high deductible. This isn't, you know what? I want to see you. I have money. And there are now, it's a huge industry in medicine where there are doctors saying, no insurance, we're done. We're just going to see people who are paying us $1,000, $2,000 a year, $600 a month, whatever. So the wealthy people still getting their health care. But individuals who, either are qualified for Obamacare or not are still getting screwed. Those who aren't qualified for Obamacare subsidies, their insurance is thousands upon thousands of dollars a year. They have deductibles that are in the 10,000. Their copays are high. It's just so cost prohibitive to even go to a doctor to get seen that, they're being shunted to telemedicine. And so they're placated for now. But every time I say, look, you need to get seen, you need to get examined, you need to get this done. They're like, but I can't afford it. My insurance doesn't pay for that. So, but then people can say, but Dr. Dahlia, what about those individuals that are benefiting from the subsidies? How are they getting hurt? Well, you're reading and you're hearing that, those people that have an Obamacare insurance, this has been going on since 2009, have a card in their wallet. It's a nice looking card. They're in the system. But are they seeing the doctor? Are they getting to see their medical provider? No. There are people on Obamacare plans that go, I haven't seen a doctor in 2 years. Whereas, before Obamacare, were they able to get seen? Was their urgent care visit cheaper? So when I tell somebody, look, I know you haven't seen a doctor in a while, you need to go get seen, they go, I can't. If I go to urgent care, it's still really expensive. I understand that the subsidies are paid down, but I still have a very high cost to go and see the doctor. I still have a high deductible. So Who ended up benefiting from Obamacare? The rich, the insurance companies. If Mamdani in New York City is promising, which is very attractive in terms of, wow, free childcare, free bus system, cheaper groceries and cheaper rent. Oh, I mean, why aren't all politicians offering that and suggesting that? That sounds wonderful. Okay, well, what actually happens with that? So when you have free buses, anybody could go on the bus, no charge. Okay, who ends up then going on the bus? Well, people who need a place to rest, people who might not have a home, people who, don't necessarily have a place to go. And so those individuals who really, really need to take that bus, there's no seats. It's free, so can't access it. So now these these people who really need to get on a bus that can't access a bus, or they don't want to be around somebody who could light them on fire or stab them or whatever, because of what we're starting to now see on public transit, they now have to feel like they have to pay for a private cab or private Uber. So free buses could turn into them now spending more for their transportation. Same thing with government-run grocery stores. Now, true, we hear it failed in Kansas City, and we hear that it didn't work well when it was tried before. I hope it works well. I wish New York City well. But if a government-run grocery store doesn't have food on the shelves, doesn't have the choices, well, people then need to go somewhere else. And those tax dollars to pay for those government-run stores or buses or whatever, where did that tax dollar come from? Now, Mamdani said he's not going to take it out of the working class people. It's going to come from the rich. Okay, well, what do the rich people do? Who's rich? The one that owns the grocery store, the one that owns the restaurant, the one that owns the firm? If that firm has to pay more, that restaurant has to pay more, where are they going to get more money to cover that? They're just not going to go into their pockets. They're going to extend that price down to the working class. So we saw that when Biden told everybody who was after the COVID lockdown saying nobody wants to come back to work, thank you. He's like, well, pay them more. Well, okay, the restaurants paid staff more. And what happened? Your salad cost $22. Your burger cost $18. So telling rich people to spend more money ends up translating to non-rich people having to cover the money. Now, the idea, which deserves a separate segment of itself, a whole much different topic, free childcare. Having gone to school, had babies, trying to work, trying to raise kids at the same time, and using daycare. Daycare was so expensive. Having student loans, trying to open my practice, it was ridiculous. I didn't have family to help watch. It was rough. And yes, if childcare could be free, that would be wonderful. Absolutely. If we could have free childcare. But that's expensive. So who pays for that? It's a nice thought. But so, and I know we're coming up at the end of the segment, but you need to look at all the things where socialism has kind of taken over, socialism/communism, and who actually benefited and who got hurt. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's fantasy football pocket guides for beginners. Don't be left out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dali Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So, when you're a public official, when you're a doctor, when you're a police officer, when you're a teacher, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And or you're if you're Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And so, if you are in a position of leadership, and you make a video with confusing messages, vague messages, that if the president tells you to do something illegal, you don't have to do it and you shouldn't do it. That's extremely irresponsible, very reckless, careless, and needs some explanation. Trump, however, I think fell for a trap. And when congressional Democratic leaders, or when 6 congressional Democrats who were members of the military and intelligence community decided to make this video telling our military to refuse to carry out illegal orders, Trump's response should have been, what are they doing? Ignore it. Instead, he had said their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors, lock them up. And then he later posted, seditious behavior punishable by death. And then, I believe, according to Fox News, he reposted somebody's comment that said, hang them, George Washington would. Now, I understand that telling the military to go against the commander-in-chief or go against their officers, their superior officers, when they are trying to maintain safety and protect the United States is, seditious behavior. And I understand in the past, that type of behavior, was dealt with differently and very aggressively. And I understand that Trump might have wanted to kind of allude to how, this is not, you going on video on a Twitter or TikTok and, making videos like this, can have consequences. This is not something that is safe. It's not something that is helpful. It could be very dangerous for our military, for individuals, for the country. And so highlighting the fact that this could be dangerous, I understand that. But what I don't understand is how Trump keeps getting himself into these situations where this was all planned to distract. All right. The shutdown was a cluster, and the Democrats had that over their heads. And now people are going to the holidays. And so the Democrats had to come up with something to try to pivot from the mess up they did for 43 days. And so they decide to make this video, and they teased him. They basically trapped him into him responding. And now it's all about, well, he wants to have them killed. No, he doesn't. He does not want to have congressional leaders killed. I understand he was, and he likes to tweet. I don't know if he writes all his tweets, but he really likes to post. He likes to get his message out there. But, seditious behavior punishable by death. The video was vague. This is vague. What exactly are you meaning, Trump? And even though I understand what he was doing, and I do not believe, he is, advocating for anybody to die. Now, congressional leaders like Chuck Schumer and everybody said that now Trump was explicitly calling for the execution of elected officials. He says this is an outright threat and it's deadly serious. He says every time Donald Trump posts things like this, he makes political violence more likely. And some of the video stars, the cast members, say they have gotten threats. And Capitol Police have had to provide additional security. So my advice for Trump is, look, I think the average person with common sense knows exactly what Trump was trying to say. And I don't think this is going to, necessarily sway an election, a future election. But he really needs to stop falling for these traps. He has been very gifted in knowing how to give the media something to chew on. And maybe that's why he did this. Maybe he's like, look, I got some big things to work on right now. And I need the media to, like piranhas, jump on something I said. And then maybe that's what this is. But if he didn't mean for this to happen, and he just don't let them do their stupid whatever, you are the commander in chief. And you could say, look, our military has a chain of command. Now, outside people trying to sway you, is not appropriate. It could be dangerous. Any questions, refer to your chain of command. Or something like that. If he really felt like he had to say something as commander in chief, or let the Secretary of War take that on. And so House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, in a joint statement with the House Democratic leadership team, according to Fox News, condemned Trump's, quote, disgusting and dangerous death threats against members of Congress, urged House Republicans to follow suit. They said they've been in contact with the House Sergeant at Arms and the United States Capitol Police to ensure the safety of the members and their family. And, listen, the senators, Alyssa Slotkin, Mark Kelly, Maggie Goldlander, we have senators and representatives, Chrissy Houlihan, Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, them telling military service members to refuse to follow unlawful orders was duh. The military is never supposed to, do an illegal order. That's it. And so what exactly are you talking about? What do you know that we don't? What are you seeing they're doing that's illegal? If they're protecting the border, if they're getting, criminals out of the city, if they're ensuring that people could walk to their car or drive and be at a stoplight in Washington, D.C. without being carjacked, explain to us what's illegal and what's not. Do you know something that we don't? Just explain. I don't mind Congress people making videos, but making these vague double entendre, these subliminal, come on, man, really? But did they do it because they had to come up with something so people weren't talking about the shutdown and how much that screwed people up? By the way, federal workers were not happy about that because federal workers were supposed to get all their pay back. The thing is because they didn't technically work, I believe it was paid as like a bonus, and a bonus gets taxed differently. They still had to pay all the regular taxes like Medicare, Social Security, all that other stuff. But because it was like a bonus, it was apparently a different tax. I don't know. So they didn't really get all their money back from that. Now, still, they got free days off, except for air traffic controllers, TSA, and people who worked. But, people are not happy. They're still feeling that. And we're still going to see ramifications from the airlines. Airlines who lost billions of dollars are now going to, I'm already noticing the airline fees skyrocketing. The tickets I bought now are 30% higher. Thank God I didn't wait to buy tickets for a couple conferences and weddings I needed to do next year. We're moving on from how the Democrats screwed up with the shutdowns to now how Democrats have to fear for their lives because of a tweet from Trump. And so, look, I get he's mad. That is ridiculous. It's you don't have mixed messaging like that. You know, and I understand they've had some military experience. I don't think a Marine was represented, you know, in this group, but, you know, I get they've had some military experience. So Democrats asked them, well, why don't you just, you know, tell them the obvious, but make it sound like, you know, that it's for a cause, you know, and so, you know, when you have, you know, young recruits, and I also get, you know, recruitment now is up. And the military is not stressing over having individuals who really want to protect and serve. So are they doing that to mitigate that? I mean, what is the point? I don't get that. And so it's a trap. I think it was all to distract from the shutdown and distract from, you know, some of the mistakes they made and some of the wins that Trump has been doing. So Trump should not give in to that. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I've taken public transportation for most of my life until I was able to purchase money to get a car. And I bought it for $1,800, a Chevy Chevette, an 86 Chevy Chevette with no air conditioning. Pretty beat up, but I was able to at least use that. And, you know, I've ridden buses and subways and trains. And I like it. I felt very comfortable, felt very safe. I don't feel safe now. Stabbings, the being set on fire. This is the second time in, I think, a year, a woman has been set on fire on a train, this time in Chicago. Many of you have heard this story where a 26-year-old woman was doused in gasoline. Nobody helped her until she got off the train. Just like the other lady who was on fire, just standing there. No, nobody's helping. The woman on the Philadelphia train getting raped. Nobody's jumping in to help. Because they're all worried about the Daniel Penny case where they could maybe get arrested. I don't know. But Lawrence Reed is the accused, 50 years old, has been hit with a federal terrorism charge. Allegedly, he went to a gas station, filled up a container with gas, gets on the train, douses her, then lights her on fire, shouting, "Burn alive, witch," but use the B word. And actually, I think he also said that when he was arrested. He's due in federal court today, as of, I think, now. And we're just the shock of somebody on a train, just kind of going off just on her phone, doing, just staying to herself, not engaging with anybody. Public transportation, I understand Mamdani wants to make public transportation, free, which is nice, but I don't think the average person wants to go on public transportation unless you can ensure that stuff like this won't happen. Well, one way to ensure stuff like this won't happen is to make sure that individuals who are high risk for this type of behavior and have had a pattern of this behavior aren't out and about. And we have learned from multiple news outlets, and I'm looking at New York Post now, that he has had a disturbingly lengthy rap sheet, was put on a pretrial release at the time for an aggravated battery charge. And he had multiple issues, 71 arrests in Cook County alone, convicted in 13 of those cases. Now, interestingly, Headline, newspaper outlet, says that a prosecutor had asked the judge to rethink. This was in a previous hearing. This was months before this attack. A Cook County prosecutor was on record warning a judge that releasing this man on electronic monitoring could put the public in danger. The assistant state's attorney told Cook County Judge Teresa Molina Gonzalez during an August detention hearing that putting Mr. Reed on an ankle monitor could not protect the victim or the community from another vicious, random, and spontaneous attack. The transcript quotes the judge replying, I understand your position, but I can't keep everybody in jail because the state's attorney wants me to. But I understand and respect your position. Well, she needs to lose her job. The judge ends up releasing him on electronic monitoring with daytime leave windows. And now he commits his terrorist attack on a mass transportation system. If this woman dies from her severe burns, now also up on murder charges, if that happens, I hope she doesn't die. But what the hell is going on here? Now, some bystanders did finally help to smother the flames and help her off the train. But originally, when this happened, nobody stepped in to help. I mean, we have really, changed in society to where you have somebody who's going to come in and help, to now people being afraid of going to jail, of getting in trouble for assault or, bodily injury, them getting hurt. And so victims are just getting raped and lit on fire and hurt just in front of people. And everybody, and I understand the shock. And when people are in shock, they freeze. I get that. I understand that maybe what we see on camera is not people not caring. It's just they could be in shock going, what am I really looking at? And then not knowing what to do. But why aren't we training each other into how to protect each other from the public? That's why you see most of the individuals that jump up are first responders, military, because they don't freeze. They know. They know what to do in a situation like this. But if Cook County or New York City or Philly, cannot ensure that somebody's not going to get raped or attacked or stabbed or lit on fire, no one's going to want to use this public transportation. And if judges don't do their job, I mean, when a federal prosecutor is telling them, look, this person is a danger. And the judge said, duly noted. Come on. And so, when people feel like they don't have faith in this country, and if your judges aren't doing their job, and it isn't that she had the excuse. And again, I don't see the whole transcript. It's not the excuse. Look, I want to put him in jail. We have no room. There's no beds. There's no cells. I have no place to put him. Our mental institutions, our psychiatric wards, completely full. I have no place to put him. So we're going to have to do, external monitoring. That's not what she said. She goes, I can't keep everybody in jail because the state's attorney wants me to. Really? What was she thinking? I wonder if the judge could be sued civilly for that, for not doing their job. I'm sure they have protections, or judges. But this individual was charged with multiple felonies in the past 3 decades, seriously mentally disturbed, causing bodily harm, almost killing this woman. She still remains in the hospital in critical condition. How many other of these individuals are out there? 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska dead because of a stabbing on a commuter train in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have individuals just sitting there on their phone trying to get home or trying to get to work. People say, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to come in. Can you blame them? Everybody needs to do their job. Now, I understand the mayor of Chicago said this was an isolated incident, but this is a part of a bigger problem. If the issue is, we don't have enough mental institutions, well then let's fix that. I mean, where should all the money go to? I understand we only have X amount of money. Should it go to being a sanctuary city and helping individuals across, illegally have public funds, or should it go to ensuring that people who need mental health care get mental health care and keep them away from individuals until they get that care and ensure public safety? I mean, you have X amount of funds that you could distribute any way you want to. And if your priorities are, Medicaid for illegal immigrants. And I get it. Illegal immigrants, need medical care. I'm a doctor. I want everybody to get care. And if an illegal immigrant has tuberculosis and could spread it to other individuals, you want to treat that person and you want to get that person better. But what is more of an emergency right now? Criminals being out on the street because they're not getting taken care of, or being a sanctuary city and getting votes. So this is crushing, and I hope she gets better. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25. You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this case is scary. So a teenager, many of you have already heard of this case, an 18-year-old, Anna Kepner, was on a family cruise in the Caribbean with her father, her stepmother, grandparents, two step siblings, and her brother. They were on the Carnival Horizon, and it was on its way back to Miami after touring the Caribbean. It docked on November 8th. She was staying in the same room as her stepbrother and another step sibling. Now, she tells family members the night before that she wasn't feeling well and was going to her room. The next day, she didn't show up for breakfast. Now, eventually, she is found stuffed, I think, underneath a bed, hidden in life vests. What the hell happened? This was, according to court documents, followed by her stepmother, Chantel Hudson. Now, the FBI is questioning, she was a high school senior at the time, 18, is questioning the stepbrother. And we're getting more and more information, and I'm not, he's a suspect, but no one's been charged. But, investigators are reviewing surveillance video, analyzing electronic swipe card data to show who entered the teen's cabin. This happened November 8th. I think they should have a pretty damn good idea by now. I mean, every single thing is monitored. There are cameras everywhere. There is, to get into the room, everything's electronic. They're not the old-fashioned keys. And everybody has their own key. They have their ID. They have so it should be pretty obvious, not to mention DNA. Not exactly sure if she was suffocated, how she died. I don't know if we have that information yet. But we are being told that her 16-year-old stepbrother was, quote-unquote, obsessed with her and relentlessly pursued her despite the family being blended now. And I guess Kepner's ex-boyfriend had said, and the father of the ex-boyfriend said she was scared of him because he always carried around a big knife. His son Joshua, who dated Kepner, who said once saw the stepbrother come into the room when she was sleeping and get on top of her. They said he's like infatuated, attracted to her like crazy. He always wanted to date her. Weston said his son tried to warn Kepner's parents, but told him they don't want to believe me. Now, this was a 6-day cruise. She's with her father. I mean, the man that is supposed to protect her from all of this. Stepmother. Her 14-year-old biological brother, 16-year-old stepbrother, and I believe there might have been one other step sibling. She was supposed to graduate Temple Christian School in Florida, and she died at 11:17 a.m. November 7th, from what people understand, according to the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner. The funeral was held in Titusville. Her biological mother, Heather Kepner, told Inside Edition that she was barred from attending due to long-standing family tensions, but will do what she has to do to say goodbye. In fact, I think there's a report that the mom only found out about it when she was doing an online search. That's how she found out her daughter died. I got to tell you, when these families break up, it's crazy. The mom said, I found out through Google. I ended up Googling it because the only information I had was my daughter was on a cruise. She had not heard from Anna's father or the FBI since her daughter's death. That's something's up. So, we blend families all the time. And on the whole, it ends up working, or does it? How many people can't stand their stepbrothers or stepsisters? How many people are getting assaulted by the step family member? Or by their biological family member who could be acting out? Now, I'm not saying the stepbrother did this, but when you're hearing that she had feared somebody she now has to share a room with, I mean, that's frightening. I mean, we have a lot of mental illness in this country. And just because your dad falls in love with somebody else, does that mean you have to be at risk? Well, if you're a minor and your dad gets custody over you, you have to live without your dad. Now, there's supposed to be ways where if children feel they are getting assaulted or they are scared, there should be ways where they could talk to a school counselor, go to authorities, get help. But that's not always a perfect system. In my family growing up, there were issues, and there was nobody that could come and help. And they're supposed to, but... And also, will they act on something suspected? Has he touched you? Well, no, but I'm getting the feeling. I'm getting, you get a vibe. You trust that vibe, but you can't try somebody or convict them, if they haven't done anything. And so it's a scary situation that we have a lot of, stepchildren and stepdaughters and sons who could be in situations where they could be hurt. even murdered. Now, there's a chance this could be crew or somebody else. And again, the cruise line should know. I mean, there's cameras every hall. There's cameras everywhere. They can easily follow that. That's what the security on these things. It's like a city. They should be able to tell. Now, again, her not feeling well. Okay, was it carbon monoxide poisoning? Yeah, but why was she stuffed under a bed? So I'm assuming she was murdered. I think everybody else was. But, if you do have a blended family, make sure your family members feel like they can talk to you. But if there's somebody giving them the creeps in that family, you got to separate them immediately. 1-877-Doc Dolly. We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So Mamdani is heading to the White House today. I believe, I think he's there now, as Trump has hosted him, which I think is absolutely appropriate. Yeah, I mean, he is, going to be the mayor of New York City. Sorry, no, that wasn't vomiting. That was a cough. This is who New Yorkers voted for. They want a quote unquote self-proclaimed democratic socialist. It's their choice. I support the democratic process. I just don't believe the millions of New Yorkers are represented by those votes because not everybody voted. But he won, and so we'll see what he does. And Trump, it's funny because I was reading something where Trump is calling him a commie, but yesterday it said Kwame, Kwame. And so I don't know if people are saying that we're reading that incorrectly or if that was a typo. But I think Trump calls him Kami Mamdani. And it's going to be interesting to see how this meeting goes. Now, I think, Trump going to be presidential. He's going to, do his due diligence, meeting the new mayor of the biggest, most populous city in the country and the capital of capitalism. He might as well meet what a socialist / Marxist, possible communist, wants to do with New York City. He does have to ensure that New York City is going to have the protections it needs, and he needs to anticipate what he has to protect New York City from. I'm sure a question on anti-Semitism. How is Mamdani going to address anti-Semitism as we are starting to hear more protests, more vicious attacks of Jews, more verbal assaults happening near synagogues? And is Zohran Mamdani going to protect the Jewish population? He says that he is, still against the verbiage that people have been using, such as globalizing the Intifada. But Trump's job is to make sure all Americans are safe, in this world and in his country, and, make sure that, Zohran Mamdani doesn't do anything that puts New Yorkers at risk. Mamdani's job, though, is to run the city. And Mamdani thinks his job is to push back against the president if it doesn't protect the city. So it'll be very interesting to see where they agree and where they disagree. And I do feel that, it's appropriate for them to meet and talk. Trump is a New Yorker. I mean, this is where he was, he made money. In fact, a lot of the money that ended up going to Mamdani came from people who benefited off of Trump's economy and Trump's New York growth. So one of the reasons why Mamdani is there is thanks to Trump. I hope he does thank Trump, because it did take money for Mamdani to get there. In fact, he's been raising $4 million so he could, hit the ground running on day one, which actually I do respect. Now, it's if he thinks he could get donations so that he could staff individuals and have them start working, before he takes over. But again, who are you asking the money from? Who are you getting the money from? And is that helping them, or is it just helping you and your staff? You paying your staff high price salaries. Is that really helping the workers and so in the middle class and lower income? And if they aren't the ones that are donating that money, the wealthy are, and you're saying you don't want wealthy dollars, okay, you can't be hypocritical. Fox News has a report that Mamdani is struggling to explain how he'll fund the free buses. He says the most important fact is that we fund it, not the question of how we do it, but we do it. Well, that's, you got to be really, really careful when you just promise the world. You know how easy it would be for me on air to say, guys, I'm going to run for office, and I am going to give you all free health care. I am going to make it so anytime you want to see a doctor, you can. I will have a system in place. Doesn't matter how I get that system in place, but you are going to have access to doctor 24/7. And you will love it, and it'll be free. You know how easy that would be for me to say? I don't say it. Why don't I say that and run for office? Because it's not true. It can't be done. It would be a lie. But how politicians do things is they promise the world. They don't say, all right, guys, this is a goal. This is something I believe we should have. And so this is a goal. And this is what I'm going to strive and work for. It might not happen, but this is something I want to do. That isn't as convincing as you're going to get to ride a bus for free. Meanwhile, nobody's actually explaining how, if people are then going to use that bus to sleep on and to camp out and to do their Wi-Fi and never leave, that there may never be any open seats. And if nobody is, ensuring that criminals aren't off the street, how do you ensure that people riding this free bus and never getting off, isn't going to hurt you? No one's really talking about that. And then talking about who's paying for it. But Pix's 11, Dan Monorino, pressed Mamdani about how he plans to secure the money for free buses if Governor Kathy Hochul is not in favor of raising taxes. And Mamdani said that the clearest ways to obtain the money would be increasing the state's corporate tax or through personal income tax on people who earn more than $1 million per year. And he added that the most important fact is that we fund it, not the question of how we do it, but that we do it. Well, the most important fact is making sure people have health care. That's a nice thing to say. Most important fact is thinking, we need some details. His campaign laid out proposals raising the top state corporate tax rate to 11.5%, adding 2% New York City income tax for anyone making more than $1 million a year. Now, that might sound good and dandy for people saying, good. Okay, so the rich, we're good. But is that going to affect the non-rich? Well, one, if the rich are like, well, to hell with that, as long as I'm not there 180 days of the year, I could live anywhere. I'm rich. I don't have to live in New York. Now I have lower taxes, so I'm gone. I'm out. So, and you do have people leaving New York City, and I don't blame them. Now they could live for half the price in Miami, or Connecticut. So people are leaving. Number two is, if somebody is making $1 million a year, gross. Now I talked to you guys about the finances of my medical office. At one point, our gross money coming in to that medical office before paying rent, malpractice, staff was $1 million. However, after we had to pay the rent, all the labor, all the insurance, all that, we figured our overhead was 75%. So, I understand, remember, they're taxing the gross. Now, still, overhead 75% of $1 million coming into an office gives $250,000. But that's not, $1 million income. And so if there's a small business owner whose gross receipts are $1 million, but after overhead, where are they going to try to rebound from that extra taxing? They're going to hike up the prices for their customers. Same thing, you raise corporate tax rate, what are they going to do? Well, now your coffee's more expensive. Now your iPhone's more expensive. Things are more expensive. So he's acting like, because again, that's what politicians could do. All I have to do is tell them this, distract, and I get in. Once I get in, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but our price is going to go up. If you have a landlord that is now going to pay more because they own a piece of property. And to own a piece of property that you're renting in New York, you probably are making over $1 million. What do you think that landlord's going to do? They're going to raise the rent. And Governor Kathy Hochul, who's going to be challenged in the next race, she has, her work cut out for her. Because Mamdani is going to want money to make all this happen. And she promised not. She did not want to support tax hikes. She has slapped that idea down for a while. And so if the average person isn't even going to enjoy the free bus ride, that's a hard sell. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I'm already celebrating Christmas, but we have Thanksgiving first, and that's fine. I just love when we do Thanksgiving to already have all the decorations and everything going on. Although I live in an area where we've had a lot of rain. Thank God. Oh, Vegas has been gulping up all this rain, and it's been great. Although my lights keep going out. So there's always some issue with the circuit because of the rain. So we're getting flooded a little bit, but I don't mind. But I like to have all the decorations and all that. It's interesting how schools, I think many schools are off all next week. So I remember going to school Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I mean, Thanksgiving vacation was 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We never traveled anywhere because we, weren't really close to family and we didn't have a lot of family anyway. And so we would go to Howard Johnson's in Phoenix, Arizona, and I couldn't stand white meat turkey or the gravy. And my mom didn't cook much, so we would go to Howard Johnson's for Thanksgiving dinner, and I couldn't stand everything on that plate. I was more of a meatloaf kind of girl. So I've always disliked Thanksgiving until I actually had, really good turkey, dark meat turkey, and really tasty and, fun with friends and Friendsgiving. So now I'm loving Thanksgiving. But for years, I told you guys on air, I'm like, I'm not really, digging the whole, Thanksgiving thing. So I'm very, very excited. I'm also excited that I don't have to travel. I'm really happy about that. I'm going to be working. I always, ever since I've been working, I would always work Thanksgiving and Christmas. This way I could be off New Year's Eve night, or if I had a medical conference or something I had to do later in the year, I have my get out of jail free card. And so I'm working on Thanksgiving. Yes, I'm going to watch a Cowboy game, of course. And yes, we are going to eat. But we're going to do something small with my family, immediate family. Yes, the dogs are going to sit at the table like they always do. We have a new dog, and so she's going to want to sit at the table, which I've got to figure out how that's going to work. Because the other one knows to sit nicely and wait and, say grace and all that other stuff. But, and then the boys are going to then go and travel on Friday, drive to go and see other family, and I'm going to stay and work. And I've always done that. I've always worked because then it lets other people be off. And then when I need to be off, they're covering me. So it works out great. And also, I mean, people are pretty grateful because there's a lot of colds going on right now. People are pretty sick. I've seen a lot of stomach bugs. I'm seeing this non-COVID, non-flu, which might still be COVID or flu, but the tests aren't picking it up, or people are pretty sick. Starts with a sore throat. Then you get the very, very runny nose. Then you get the horrible cough, the difficulty breathing, loss of taste and smell. I don't know if it's a newer strain of COVID or if it's just a whole nother cold. But, if you haven't gotten sick, be prepared. So for those of you traveling, because there's no school, some of you guys are off all next week. Great. Power to you. I think it's a better time to travel this weekend than it will be next weekend. Traveling home could be a mess. That's why, if you could celebrate your Thanksgiving on a different day, if you guys could celebrate your Thanksgiving next Tuesday, and then try to leave. The only problem is when you leave, somebody might also be going. So it's always a tricky time to travel. But for those of you traveling, hopefully it's not going to be as bad as the next weekend. Always expect delays. They say pack your patience, meaning, if you know that it's going to be a difficult time to travel, have that plan where, if you're going to be doing a stopover, do you know somebody in that city that you could crash at? Can you make a refundable hotel room reservation where you could stay? By the way, one thing that I have found that has really helped me are day use hotels where oftentimes this is something new, which I think is brilliant because so I would have either a really long layover or the plane would be delayed. And I'm not planning on being in the hotel for 24 hours. And actually, you check in at 3 or 4, you leave at 11. You really don't get the room for 24 hours, right? But oftentimes you're like, well, I don't need to take out a whole hotel room. Well, there's many hotels that'll rent by the day. And I'm not talking about, afternoon delight. I'm talking about where, you let's say your flight is a red eye. We did this with Boston. So we got in at 8 a.m. Well, we couldn't check into our hotel, which was an expensive Boston hotel. Boston's expensive. We couldn't check in until 3, 4 p.m. So there was a day-use motel near the airport that allowed us to go there, take a nap, shower, have a place to stay, and and you also got free breakfast. So I could get everybody fed. We had the room from 9 to 3. And then we went to the hotel. And these day-use hotels, pretty damn good. And they have a very flexible reservation, and if you don't need it, cancellation. You might want to think about that. If your layover is going to be an issue, if you're going, wait a second, I don't like where I'm laying over, and you can't get a direct flight, maybe change your layover flight to a place where you do have somebody you could stay with. Or make it a city where you could rent a car and then drive the rest of the way if you have to. Know the weather patterns. Okay, there's some crazy, crazy weather. A lot of snow coming. I love snow. A snowy Thanksgiving is such a blessing. It's beautiful, but could also be dangerous. Be prepared for that. And then, the doctor in me wants you to be prepared for getting sick. What do I bring, on trips not that I want you to mug me on the plane, but in case, having kids and, having them throw. So with my kids, I always packed extra clothes because they would throw up or get a nosebleed. Boys always seem to get nosebleeds, especially in the summer. Your prepubertal boys get nosebleeds. So I would always have extra shirts just in case they bled up their shirt or threw up or something like that. So always have, some extra clothes on hand. But I do like to carry medicine for nausea, just in case somebody is getting nauseated. I always like to have, my Excedrin migraine or something for my headaches. I have an extra antibiotic in case somebody gets sick, and I have some extra flu medication in case, we get the flu. Now, usually, there's urgent cares and there's places you could go to, to if you need to. But if you're thinking that the place that you're going to is going to have an urgent care saying, come on in, we'll see you today, and you got nothing coming. The idea of 24/7, medical care, not happening. If there's no staff, there's no appointments. And so those are things that you kind of need to be aware of. I also like to bring, if you're going to get motion sick, if you suffer from, motion sickness or, car sickness or travel sickness, those scopolamine patches are fantastic. You have to make sure your doctor okays it. There are side effects with these medications. You can't drink when you use them. So for those of you going on a cruise for the holidays and you're getting a motion sickness patch, you can't drink on that cruise. A lot of people don't know that because you cannot drink while using the scopolamine patch. But also, another big thing that you always have to prepare for is not having all your luggage. Expect the airline to mess up the luggage, like we saw in previous years. Just expect that. This way, you'll be happily surprised if they do have your luggage, which means you better have on you what you need. Now, what do you need? Well, if you need your blood pressure medication, your diabetic medication, that should not be in your cargoed stowed luggage. That should be in your carry-on. If you need extra underwear, like if I'm going to a wedding, it's really, really hard to pack the fancy dress and take that with me. But if you're coming into town and it's going to be where you only have, 1 day lag time, and these are some things to be prepared for. And if you are seeing family, have that conversation with them going, look, I want to anticipate the worst so that I am prepared. What do you recommend if X, Y, and Z happens? Now, if I asked my family that, they'd be like, just don't come. So I got to be too careful. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So Trump is going to continue to do what he promised during the campaign trail. And one thing is that is still pressing is to put an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. And apparently there is a blockbuster peace deal, we are being told, that gives Ukraine, quote, unprecedented NATO-style security guarantees, according to sources in Daily Mail. It's a 28-point draft proposal that was kind of paralleling the Gaza deal that would treat an attack on Ukraine as one on the entire transatlantic community. But in order to have this sort of protection, because Putin does not want Ukraine in NATO, and I don't think Zelensky is going to get the unanimous backing to be in NATO, which has been a huge sticking point, and I don't blame Zelensky wanting NATO protections. That's been a huge sticking point. So what if, again, Trump, the art of the deal, what if he is able to make a NATO-style arrangement without NATO? And will that suffice? That's really what Zelensky needs. Zelensky needs to know that, if he's attacked, other countries will come to his aid. That could very easily be written in a deal. That could be done. But what's he going to give up for that? How are we going to get Russia to back down? Well, apparently, in this deal, demands that Ukraine would cede territory, would also reduce their troops and hold elections within 100 days. According to Daily Mail, Washington has threatened to cut intelligence sharing and weapons supplies to press Zelensky into agreeing to the proposal. This is according to sources telling Reuters. They say they want to stop the war, according to one source, and they want Ukraine to pay the price. Now, a NATO-style pledge to protect Ukraine and ensure that Ukraine doesn't get invaded again by Russia is costly. But we're in this situation now where this started 3 years ago. It was February 24th of 2002. We are going to be going into year 4. And we called it day 1, where if this doesn't get addressed early on, this is going to go on for years. And amazing, the grit and the strength that Ukraine has had and Ukrainians have shown trying to protect their land and to protect their sovereignty. I mean, good for them being able to withstand such a brutal force as Russia. I mean, it's amazing what they've been able to do, but they've only been able to do it because of the help of America and other countries. And that aid has to eventually stop. It's not popular. Taxpayers are going, look, we got bigger fish to fry right now. How much longer, how many more millions or billions of dollars are we going to put into this? And the war has to end. And usually how wars end is, there's the attrition or what one country can't hold out any longer. They don't have the money. They don't have the funds. They don't have the manpower. And we don't want to see Ukraine fall. We don't want to say we're not helping you anymore. But we're in this position now where we started to help. So how do we pull the help? Well, one is, why don't we bring peace? Stop the war. The only thing is, they lost their territory that was theirs to Russia. And I know they want it back. I don't blame them for wanting it back. But is that a small price to pay to ensure that you have, no more death, no more war on your people? Now, the NATO-style pledge came after Ukraine earlier this week pushed back on a draft, which only included vague security assurances. The new proposal promises to defend Ukraine for a period of 10 years, with a later renewal not ruled out. Now, Trump wants to end the war. Allegedly, 300,000 people have been killed since Vladimir Putin's invasion in 2022. And the U.S. wants Ukraine to sign this by next Thursday. Now, war is never good. And, Zelensky has suggested to not betray Ukraine, suggesting that this might betray Ukraine. But on the other end, if you're having countries, I think one thing that Trump did really, really smartly was he made other countries, put more skin in the game. If the UK really wants, this to continue, us to still continue to help, Zelensky, then they pay the same amount we are. I mean, and now other countries are like, okay, wait a second, this isn't sustainable. This is a little too much. So how does this end? And it's not going to be good. And now, Russia's not going to be happy either. Russia, wants Ukraine back. Russia wants to go back to Soviet Union or pre-fall of the Soviet Union borders and all that. That's what, and that's not going to happen. They are not going to get Ukraine back. Kyiv is not going to be Kiev anymore. Right? It's Kyiv. And Ukraine is Ukraine. But they got regions they wanted, and they're still not stopping. And this war is bloody. And there's kids Melania Trump has actually been trying to get these kids reunited with their parents. God bless her for doing that. It's affected. I said, gosh, they're almost 4 years of this. And so I'm no foreign policy expert, and I don't want to tell Zelensky what to do. But I don't know if he's going to get a better deal. Because if these other countries are at the point where they are saying, we got to shift our funding, we just can't do it, especially since a lot of people are expecting collapses of their economy as we are seeing more of this AI push and mass unemployment. And they're going to need to fund, their taxpayers are going to want, look at the healthcare system in the UK. I mean, people are pretty ticked off. And the UK is going to have to put more money into their healthcare system, to make things work. They're expecting a really, really bad winter. Not enough hospital beds. Your taxpayers are going to be saying, what about us? What about UK first? Germany first? France first? So eventually the funding is going to be pulled. And Zelensky is going to have to make a decision as to should he take what he can get now or, still try to fight longer. Because the only reason why not the only reason, but the main reason why Ukraine can still hold on is because of all the extra funding. And I got to tell you, he's been able to do it without U.S. troops. I'm still blown away, and I'm amazed at what Ukraine has been able to do. But without the funding, how quickly can they fall? So I don't want to see anybody fall. I want to see the war end. And big things Ukraine wants is their land back that Russia invaded. They want to protect their citizens. They want the war to stop, and they want NATO protections. Well, if NATO won't concede to that and NATO won't help, what if we have a deal of NATO-style protections? I think it's brilliant. But in order to get Russia to back off, there's going to be land concessions. And that's going to be tricky. And the problem is nobody's going to want to look like they failed. Nobody's going to want to look like they gave up. And I get that. You don't go into a fight to concede. Okay, you want to fight to the end. And I really do believe Zelensky's a tough dude. I think he does want to fight to the end. But how do you do that if there's no money coming in? 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.